Let's see. We went to hang out with Margaret this time instead of Lou. Scoured the area for Lou. It doesn't take us long to find him. He appears to be alright, though still strange. I calmly greet him as we approach.
Hello. Is everything alright here?
Turns toward us and blinks, like he's waking up from his sleep. It seemed as though he didn't even notice us until now. He looks away once more and smiles bitterly to himself.
Everything's pretty much how I expected. Make of that what you will.
I frown at his response, but I try not to let it bother me too much. This seems to simply be Lou's way.
At least it isn't worse than you expected.
Lou doesn't respond to Margaret. I decide a change in subject may be for the best.
Are you ready to eat, Lou?
Lou pauses for a moment to consider this.
Okay. If you leave something for me, I'll eat it soon.
Why do we have to leave?
I eye Lou suspiciously. He chuckles.
I don't need you two to stand and watch me. I'd feel more comfortable eating alone.
I have to agree with Kika. You refused to eat before, and now you claim you'll only eat if no one else is around to see it happen?
Suspicious.
If that's the case, I'll just say I won't eat again. Then there will be nothing to be suspicious over.
What do Nixie eat? Eat, anyways. Do they eat in a way that kinda you can't maintain their form in the process of it, so you can't really eat in front of anyone else? With a sigh, exasperated over his dismissive attitude. Lou snickers to himself. I take no relief in the fact that someone is finding this amusing.
Either way, we shouldn't leave anyone alone anymore. We've all had enough time to ourselves to think. Now we should focus on staying safe and being prepared for the coming night.
Lou bites his lip, hunching his shoulders up to his neck as he eyes Margaret sourly. Might be an intimidating look if it was from someone else. As it is, Lou looks a thoroughly annoyed child.
I'm not interested. There's something I'm still not finished with.
We could come with you.
Lou tries to duck further into his own body. He's clearly wishing he could stop being the center of attention. Margaret huffs, losing even more of her already thinned patience over Lou's lack of maturity on this matter.
Will you come back to find us once you're finished with your mystery task?
You can find me later, if you like. You don't need to be so worried.
Margaret and I exchange glances with one another. She seems almost guilty now. Perhaps she reevaluated the situation and feels like this might be unnecessarily demanding. Margaret is looking to me for an answer. Well... we'll come back soon.
We did sort of spring this on you. You can have some time to finish up what you're doing, though we'll need to regroup not too long from now.
He offers a meek smile, eyes glued to the ground.
Okay.
I nod, then wave Margaret over. She quickly acquiesces and we say goodbye to Lou.
Don't forget to eat something.
I hand him a hide and sinew-stitched pouch of dried salted meat and some sweet roots. He elects to not reply as he takes the pouch. Margaret and I walk off back to one of the clearings in the forest. I feel more at ease already simply being further away from that water. The two of us settle down in between the exposed roots of the dense trees.
So...
normal Margaret hours. Trust her to take the lead. The longer the quiet stretches on, the heavier her eyelids look. Soon they close completely as she tries to mumble something. Oh. Nap time. Eventually Margaret begins to stir. Her eyes flutter open. She blankly stares at me, realizing what happened. I gave her a small wave.
Hello.
Oh.
Hello. I hope I haven't missed anything.
Smooth transition.
No. All is well.
Well, that's a relief.
Margaret stops to untangle her charmingly curled hair from the bark of her resting spot. She keeps yawning.
It's been quite a long time since I've dozed off in the middle of the day. Usually I'm far too busy for something like that.
I am the same.
Margaret chuckles lightly to herself, but she's quick to share the reason with me.
I used to be scolded as a child for sleeping during the day.
Somehow it is not difficult to imagine that.
Were you different as a child than you are now?
Not quite. I had much the same disposition, but I was quite the night owl. I'd stay up late into the evening and drift off during the day because of that. Thankfully, I've gotten in the habit of more acceptable bedtime since then. I'm not sure what you find so fascinating.
I think what you have to say is interesting. You're interesting, Margaret.
Oh,
If you're sure. There was a pond in the woods behind my house. A tortoise lived there and I used to visit it all the time. I've heard that they live for a very long time, so I used to make up stories in my mind about what he may have seen in his many days.
oh, okay. Okay, he's back.
You're right.
Alright, go back for Lou. You're right. I rise from the ground. Margaret follows suit. She brushes flecks of dirt off her skirt and begins to speak.
I hope he won't try to shoo us away again. We have to take this seriously.
Two of us make our way over to where we left Lou as hastily as the thick forest will allow. Unfortunately, there's nothing to see but shrubbery upon our arrival. Lou must have gone elsewhere. That is not the only disappointment. The pouch I gave him rests squarely in the dirt, still puffed up with what was presumably all the food inside.
What does he think he's accomplishing by doing this?
Margaret mutters in annoyance while shaking her head. I scan the area for any signs of Lou while Margaret bends down to retrieve the pouch. She squints her eyes and holds the object close to her face to examine the contents.
It seems like the food is still clean at least.
She stands and her frustration gives way to fear as the mystery of what could have happened settles in her mind.
Say Lou isn't being difficult. What if something is wrong? Should we have left him alone?
She looks toward me and her voice grows more frantic with each word.
That's not what happened, right? I'm overreacting, aren't I?
Oh, I can't say anything. At a distance I can see it. Among white fog and black water, a flicker of color drifts, a green scarf. Margaret shouts beside me. She must have noticed noticed as well. Margaret grasps my arm numbingly tight.
What are we supposed to do? Lou can't be out there. He must have dropped his scarf with the food and it blew away.
Place my hand on hers and grip it firmly.
We need to search the forest. We can't go anywhere near the shore.
Margaret nods adamantly, fingers trembling.
Lou? Where are you?
Look to the forest and tug Margaret to lead her. Make our way to the tree line. There's rustling. Leaves part and all hope within me dies. It's the guide. My hands go numb, a ringing throughout my body, channeling into them. My arms fall limply to my sides.
Have you seen Lou?
So, you noticed?
He's missing.
No. You know exactly where he is. He's gone.
Margaret covers her mouth with her hands. Her voice dies to a whisper.
No.
I'm utterly speechless. We just saw Lou. He was fine.
How?
The word is not a question, but a concise demand. Margaret feels we are owed an answer, and the guide will provide it.
In some areas there aren't sandy shores. Instead, the thick forested areas lead right into the waterline. Also, since the water is so dense, oftentimes debris settles on top. It can cover what's beneath completely, making it look as though it's still part of the shore when it actually isn't.
An accident?
Those are only a few ways someone could get too close for safety.
And why couldn't you have mentioned any of those little details?
So I told you to stay away from the shore. He doesn't reply.
Well,
He fucked around and he found out. The guide is saying to us. Margaret continues digging in deeper and deeper, pushing for a reason for this. Knowing why won't make it better, but I feel she hopes it will.
if you were aware of all that and kept it to yourself, then that means all of this is your fault. You might as well have pushed Lou into the lake with your own two hands.
The guide looks absolutely furious over the accusation.
And just how do you know it was an accident? No one heard any signs of struggle.
Fair enough.
Lou wouldn't have killed himself.
Are you sure about that? The guide glares at the both of us and rather mutely snarls.
You didn't know that man. You should have never gotten involved with him. He wasn't your responsibility.
He finishes his sentence full of malice. I snap out of my stupor, feeling the tension growing between the two.
This isn't helping anything!
The guide closes his eyes for a few seconds and sighs in frustration.
We'll never know for sure what the truth is. It isn't something we should allow to distract us until we have made it to the other side.
Margaret stitches her mouth shut and glares at the guide crossly. He stares back for a moment before turning his back to us and disappearing into the forest. Once he is gone, Margaret drops her face into her hands. I stand stone still. How could we have let this happen? He was right there with us. We were with him during the day, on the island, only an hour or so ago. How? Margaret turns her gaze, now hardened and running with grief, towards me.
If that's how that guide is going to be, then maybe I should still become one.
What?
Oh. I startle at the recklessness of her words.
I understand that you can't always save everyone, and that difficult decisions must be made. But this isn't right. He could have done so much more, yet he didn't bother for no reason.
I gaze at her sorrowfully. I don't want to see someone I care about so much about spend their life on this lake. But I know that it's not my place to tell her otherwise. Everything between the guide and Lou rings so much differently after getting the true ending. You know? It's... wow.
I'm going back to the forest. You should come with me.
Yes.
That is at least a decision I can agree with wholeheartedly. I feel that there aren't many of those left. It's only getting worse the further and further we get from the other lake's shore. I look back towards the scarf once more. I realize that it's gone. Tears well up in my eyes. Silently continue my walk towards the meeting point. Our thoughts not any more at ease, we arrive where we are meant to meet the guide. Guide is there, and he is still and as dark as the trees he's surrounded by. It gazes at him coolly, but doesn't say anything to him. I'm not sure what to say either. As we approach, he finally speaks.
It's almost time.
Nothing else is said. All three of us wait in a deep, miserable silence until night falls. Alright. Bridges are rising. I clench my teeth to stop it from churning my
Let's
stomach.
go now.
Guy doesn't wait for any replies, briskly starting in the direction of the shore. Morgan and I match his pace. Can feel the air weighing on us, a sensation that slows our steps despite being rested. Something hovers in my mind, the mirrored memory of the beginning of last night's journey. One day ago feels like a lifetime past. Thick, inky water sloshes reluctantly off the boards, leading back into the lake until finally it becomes still. A shudder crawls over my body as I place my foot on the boards, but I quickly shake it off. I have no other option. I have to go through this again. Margaret marches ahead of me so I can't view her face. However, even from the back, I can feel that something's on her mind. I decided not to ask about it. It wasn't meant for me to hear. Margaret's fucking pissed. This is definitely different. However, the biggest threat... Okay, this is similar, but different, because we can't skip it. However, the biggest threat of all is eerily absent. The Prowlers. I haven't seen more than shadowy glimpses of them down the other paths, and even those may have simply been tricks of the fog. I feel I may be even more on edge tonight than last. Judging by Margaret's tenseness, she isn't as set at ease by their lack of presence either.
Why?
Whisper the question softly, almost silently as I scan left and right across the impossibly empty bridges for any sign of movement. I ponder whether they're still worried from the consuming blaze that lit up the night yesterday, or if there are less dragging themselves across the bridges than usual because many have already gotten what they wanted. My skin crawls with the touch of icy fingers at that thought, and I can't control the sharp shiver that travels down my spine. Margaret catches my concern as she slows her walking somewhat.
It's very quiet out here. I haven't heard anything but our footsteps since we started.
Yes.
She seems a tad disappointed by my brusque answer, but Margaret quickly refocuses and continues walking. As time passes by, we continue to see nothing but more bridges and fog. Beside me, Margaret eyes the guide sharply. She begins to question him.
How do you know where you're going?
Her tone is harsh and clipped. He doesn't answer, prompting her to continue.
I heard that it's impossible to create a map of the bridges because they can change. I can understand that since I've seen them sink partway through the night myself. But I'm curious, how exactly are you able to tell that we're going the correct way?
Because I remember.
Remember what exactly?
She huffs to herself at the notion.
All these bridges look exactly the same.
But they aren't the same.
He replies immediately this time, addressing Margaret's line of questioning head-on despite having his back to us.
How many boards there are, the angle they curve at, the width. There are ways to tell them apart. It isn't the bridges alone either. There are signs in the water and even with the way the air feels. As little as there is, everything here can be a marker, as long as one is actually committed to keeping it in mind.
I see.
Despite wanting to dismiss the guide, she does seem focused enough to be making mental notes on everything he's explained about the maze. Oh, is she actually recommitting to becoming a guide? She slowly falls into step with me, seemingly satisfied with the partial conversation she had been having with the guide.
It is still terribly difficult to navigate this dreadful place without my glasses.
You're going to be all right.
I firmly reassure her, however she merely scoffs again.
Perhaps not with a leader like him.
Her tone grows more annoyed.
I wonder how many people have needlessly died because he was the only person around to show them the way.
Well, non-zero quantity. Oh boy. Fewer than those would have died without him. Alright. Margaret raises her eyebrows and her brow tightens.
I cannot say with certainty that the guide has always made wise decisions. However, there isn't enough evidence for us to state that he takes his position lightly, or that one would be better off without him.
She pauses for a moment, entertaining the viewpoint.
Perhaps. I still think that things could be far better.
Finishing that thought, she resumes her normal pace again. Our progress continues steadily, and we still encounter no significant difficulties. Margaret has drifted further away from me and closer to the guide. He turns his head slightly to address her.
You're following too closely.
I expect her to step back and nothing to come from this. However, instead, Margaret dismissively snaps back.
I'm not at all within an arm's reach of you.
The guide abruptly stops walking, and Margaret accidentally ends up getting even closer to him.
You're close enough. Stay further behind.
He's far firmer in his demand this time around, highlighting how clearly the point was made. Margaret regards the guide defiantly and stands her ground. He narrows his eyes at the turn of events.
If you're not happy with how I lead, then continue on by yourself.
I start to feel concern creep in. The lack of trust between them has grown dangerously high, and with the way they're speaking, I fear it could escalate further.
We should remain as a single group.
Margaret ignores me completely while remaining unfazed by the guide directly addressing the concerns she had voiced.
It's rather hard to respect a leader who eavesdrops on conversations.
His jaw clenches as she tests his patience.
Either you are to lead yourself, or you will follow my path. Those are your choices. Say which one it will be.
Oh, so both options are to die then.
That biting comment makes me wince, as I fear the situation is spiraling further down and any words to stop its descent cannot be found in my racing thoughts.
If you enter these bridges, all you should expect is death. That is no secret.
The guide continues, annoyance leaking into his voice.
You think that the results would have been different if only I had said more or did something differently, but that is not true. The conclusion would be exactly the same. If Lou hadn't died when he did, he would have been lost at some other point during the trip.
That sounds like excuses to me.
Uh-oh. Margaret raises her voice.
You're adept enough to traverse these bridges so often that you've memorized the minute details of them, but you couldn't help him? Why are you the only one who gets to avoid death here?
The guide's face twists into a vicious snarl. He shouts,
I have died! I have no life to give. Everything I am, everything I could have been, was surrendered to this lake. That is the only reason why I'm able to stand before you now. I can show you the way, and I can give you advice on how to survive the perils you will face. That is all I'm able to offer. Is that not enough for you? What else do you want from me? Kindness? Sympathy? It's been far too many years since I was capable of giving anything like that.
He finally stops to catch his breath, though the emotion in his eyes still shines intently. There is no response from either of us. Agonizing silence permeates the air. No one dares to even move. Tension is cut as the boards beneath me start to creak. My eyes dart down. The bridge is sinking. Rapidly. Instinctively, I jump backwards, but the new section of bridge groans hardly as it too starts to tilt into the water. I keep getting farther and farther away with each disappearing platform I move off of.
Wait!
Look up at Margaret's frantic call. My chest tightens when I see her and the guide on what has become the other side of a small chasm. I leap back just in time as the bridge under me snaps like a twig. Glancing over again, they keep getting farther and farther away with each disappearing platform I move off of. Dread creeps up my neck and I nearly lose my footing once I realize what's happening. Was this intentional by the guide? Or is this just a fit of emotion? Desperately stumbling backwards, I finally manage to regain my balance. I use this to leap far back enough. At the bridge I land on doesn't immediately start to fall apart under my weight. Another 3 swift steps, I am finally on sturdy wood. The bridges reluctantly stop shifting and settle. Any trace left of what was once a huge section of bridge is a few splintered boards floating in the murky water. The lake consumed it. Somehow I am not surprised. Getting my bearings, I face what has become of my circumstances. I am now separated from Margaret and the guide by a far wider gorge than anyone could leap. My throat goes bone dry as I teeter at the end of the bridge, mind wildly scrambling for a solution that doesn't come. I lock onto Margaret's face. She's completely aghast, wringing her hands and opening her mouth wordlessly. She has little idea of what to do with herself. I'm not quite sure what to do with myself either. Margaret keeps her eyes on me, but I can faintly hear her address the guide. I'm too far off to grasp what Margaret is asking, but I get the impression she is seeing if there's another way. The guide turns to me. He's completely cooled down from the earlier interaction, back to his same placid expression. The guide says one word. Judging from the look of heartbreak on Margaret's face, I can only assume it was no. There's no way back to them. As I watch the two discuss my fate, unable to say anything, fear starts to crawl over me. My arms run cold to freezing. It's not long before the rest of my body follows. Tears drip down Margaret's face. I can see the delicate lantern light playing off of them, even from here. The guide's voice echoes loudly across the waters that's separating me from them.
Go back and take the next bridge you come across that goes west. There may be enough time for you to find your own way.
I blink, taken aback for a moment before I quickly regain my composure. That's right, this isn't over. I still have my lantern with me. The prowlers are less active. If the guide says that it's possible, it could be true. I nod solemnly at his words and yell back.
I'll meet you there! Don't wait for me!
He bows his head and starts to slowly back away from the edge. Margaret tries and fails to dry her eyes as she looks at me helplessly from across the waters. I detest the idea of having to part ways with Margaret, however I know that there's no other way. I smile forlornly at her as the wind whips against my back. I speak softly.
You need to go.
There's no way she would have heard me, yet I'm confident that the sentiment got across. I spin on my heels and run back the way we came, searching for the bridge the guide said to take. I can only hope that we all safely reunite before this night ends. I spare a brief glance behind me, however there's not a trace of them or even the dead end I was stranded at. The painful contracting of my heart, I realize that I am truly alone now. Okay, Now we're on normal territory. Even after the first crossroad, I continue with the guide's simple direction, keeping west every chance I get. I have no other hints for this labyrinth. It's difficult to tell how much time has passed. Must be at least an hour, judging by how much energy I've expended. As I recompose myself, I have not stopped walking for a second. Despite how much time has worn on, the route still feels like an endless abyss. Then I hear a noise which causes a sudden, shuddering chill to creep down my spine. An uneven clicking, followed by a squelching sound. It's a prowler. I immediately turn to look behind me. There's nothing. I breathe out, relieved. There's search for the source of the noise, but with all the babble the Nixie are making, the direction is clouded. I strain my ears. That's it. Noise is drifting slowly from one of the connecting paths up ahead. I can faintly tell the noise is drawing closer, drawing nearer. The prowler has not arrived yet, but soon its path will intercept with my own. I will not wait for it to reveal itself to me, leaving me just two options. I can run past the bridge connection to get ahead of it, or I can turn back and find a new path to take. Oh shit. Turn back. Deciding against it risking any sort of encounter with the thing, I carefully back away. Quietly, I turn on my heel and retrace my steps. After a short time, I come across a decent enough seeming bridge. No better option, I take it. Soon the sounds of the prowler fade, then completely vanish into the night. I breathe a sigh of grateful relief and hope I don't encounter any more of them going forward. As I walk along, alone longer, still in this purgatory, the worries that have been plaguing my heart become muted. Instead, a new fear grips me, the truth that I am becoming comfortable with the notion that there isn't an end to this. I must stop myself from quietly accepting such a fate. Grip the handle of my lantern tightly and grit my teeth. Various thoughts come in and out of the front of my mind as I fight to remain focused on the path ahead. Memories of my birth home, my wolf dogs, Adelina, the others who may still be out there, somewhere out there on these bridges. That moment we were separated, looks on their faces the last time I saw them. While going over it, I asked myself if I should have tried to go back to the island and wait for the guide to return there on another journey. Supplies would have been tight, however I'm sure I would have been able to stretch them. Why didn't I think of that at the time? I could have recalled the way we went so far and made it back to solid ground. I shake my head. I shouldn't scold myself over things which cannot be changed. It is possible the guide won't be returning to the island for many days. And there are many other choices I could have made that would have kept me from being in this position. All I can do is remain steadfast. It is my title, after all. Suddenly I realize through the fog, the black sky is turning dark blue. Dawn is beginning to rise. At this point, there's no use in keeping up my strength. I sprint down the bridge, going faster and faster as I hold out for some sort of sign, anything. Eventually I receive one. The silhouette of land peeks into my field of vision. I can scarcely believe it as I blink away the tears. With renewed spirit, I press down the bridge with increased speed, desperately trying to outpace the sun. The glowing orb peeks into view against the obscured sky and begins to ascend unfeelingly. With each step, the sky brightens ever so slightly more. I race through the oppressive fog, and the bridge beneath me goes no further. Just a hard drop-off into the lake. It's a dead end. Nearly collapse against the wood, the awful sight knocking the breath right out of me. I can see the shore clearer than ever, sitting on the horizon out of reach. My legs wobble again and fully give out beneath me. I hang my head, unable to look ahead at the beautiful sunrise outlining the island. Begrudgingly, my body heavy and listless as marble. I stand and turn around the way I came. Deep inside, I know that there is no hope of getting on the correct bridge and reaching the shore before it's too late, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going. After too many drinks, some fellow guards talked about wanting to die fighting. Never thought about it before because I didn't want to. But now I know what I want to be doing when I die. I want to be going forward. running against all hope that I will ever be safe again, running in defiance, running to find my way back to those who need me. So I do. I sprint as the sky becomes red and the darkness recedes. I cry unreservedly for the first time. At least in this moment, I do not have to fear that the weakness inside me will undo all my efforts. It is already too late. My legs pound against the boards almost as forcefully as my heart beats. I shouldn't be surprised, but I am, when the bridges creak and clank together. My tears come faster, but I keep running across the treacherous bridges, even as thin lines of water start to trickle across the sinking boards. Suddenly, I can't run anymore. As if to mock me, the bridge ahead falls away, leaving me at another dead end. I halt, my face as wet as my drenched feet. I stare to the sun, my eyes going bleary and star-crossed from the burning light. I hope the others are not here. I wish that they found the other side. They are able to have happy, long lives. Bridges sink rapidly now, jolting me into the cold, black lake. I try to tread water, but my armor weighs me down in this dense fluid. Inevitably, my strength is quickly sapped away. Don't sink so much as plummet down into the lake. The desperate, fighting burning in my lungs takes a few minutes to subside, then I slip into unfeeling nothingness. Make it an achievement for that distance. So close yet so far, I suppose. That's definitely a bad end. That feels like... Okay, there's one. There's still another. Wonder if that's related to Bemele and Lou. Seems like there's a lot going on. Yeah, I wonder. Sort of in the Bemele zone. I think that's going to be all for this video. We've got the true ending. We got the last achievement. I think I'm satisfied here. If I figure out how to get the other, the missing CGs, I might put them at the beginning of the last episode. That's right, one more episode. And the rest of that episode is going to be... bonus events. Magical Night, Lou's Perspective, an interview with the guide. Should be enlightening. So until next time, until then, thanks for watching. So, if we go past it, from this branch, I have faith that following the same path I've been is for the best. I steel myself and build up speed. I get closer and closer to the branch with a lurking threat. Pick up my pace so I'm sprinting. I hear a gurgling hiss as I pass through the crossroad. Must have been close enough to be pained by the light. I barely made it. However, I didn't hear any splash. It is still nearby. I look behind me to see it if it has at least decided to come no further. Horrified, I realize that it's pointedly following me. It is no longer mindlessly dragging itself through the blackness. I have become its target. Its limbs bend wildly and unnaturally. It looks as though it's only barely keeping itself upright as its torso wobbles on its hips. That isn't stopping it from giving chase. I focus my view back ahead and continue to run. My breathing rapidly becomes ragged. I can still hear the squishing footsteps of the prowler behind me as it lunges its body forward in that unnatural gait. Without warning, the bridge lurches to one side. And there we go. Catching me completely off guard, I lose my footing and slam onto the damp surface of the bridge. My light falls with me, painfully snuffing out. Splashes and the excited stirring of many voices come from the lake. How? Why? Is it rotting? Or did they push the support beams? I'm left with no time to ponder the mystery as the monster draws near. I scramble back onto my feet as it closes in. Grabbing my dark lantern, I resume running to put some space between us again. I open the latch on the lantern and pull out a match. I'll have to slow down at least briefly to properly light the flame without blowing it out. With death still in my heels, I must not let one precious moment be wasted. Set on my plan, and with everything in hand, I begin to decrease my pace. Light it! Moving as fast as I am capable, I place a lit match inside the lantern and the oil catches fire. As the flame grows, I can hear the awful footsteps behind me begin to peter out. I steal a glance behind me. It has truly stopped. The return of light seems to catch it off guard, and thankfully it declines to come closer. Ooh, actually, that's an interesting choice. What can we do? Okay, so this is stare it down. Stare it down. Okay, so this is the default option. We're gonna do the poorly advised option, run. After a moment's reprieve to breathe, I push forward once more. Fighting isn't an option, I need to get away from that monster. I'm not able to run fast enough, however. I let out a loud scream as the prowler latches onto my body from behind. Thrown to the ground again. The shock is great and the lantern slips from my hand, skidding across the bridge out of my reach. As it came in contact with the light, the prowler drops itself back into the depths without attacking again. There's no time to feel relieved. Arms of other Nixie emerge from the water and reach up the sides of the bridge, scraping the boards as they try to get me. I try to climb up my feet, but one of the creatures takes hold of me before I can properly stand. I'm dragged back down to the ground, my jaw smacking hard against the bridge as the Nix blindly pulls me toward the edge. Other slimy, clawed hands grab onto me as I jam my nails hard into a crevice in the bridge. I kick frantically at their silhouettes, but they keep pulling me closer to the edge. I curl my fingers around their uneven wood tighter. Despite all my effort, there is no support. My bloody, splintered fingers come loose. Water engulfs my vision, heavy and cold, so thick I can't even hear my own thrashing. I try to grab my sword, try to fight back, but I can't even get it out of the hilt. The resistance against me is all-encompassing. Something grabs my arm, and then my waist. I get pulled from side to side, or further down. First one way and then another. The water feels like a solid substance, and being dragged against it is like I'm being pressed through something. Vision goes darker and darker. Can't tell whether I'm going lower, or whether I'm losing consciousness. My arms flail to bring me closer to wherever the surface is, but nothing is working. Complete darkness engulfs me. Was everything I've done worth it? I must believe that it was. The end. It's possible that choosing to stare it down might get us back on the rest of that path, which was essentially a doomed path to begin with. I'm not going to show all of the melee interacting with Lou, but I will show this because this seems to be different from when we went to hang out with Margaret and left Lou to his own devices. Lou still doesn't look convinced. I plead softly. We're trying to get Lou to come join us for a walkie walk, little stroll.
Please?
Lou just sighs and turns his gaze to the dirt.
I'll come.
Which is different because with Margaret we just sort of left him some food and then left him. Melee sneaks a satisfied grin at me before looking at Lou.
Good man.
Thank you.
And we need a bit more Melee in this playthrough before we're done. Lou keeps his eyes fixed on the ground but gives a sad smile that presumably is meant for us and not the sand. Leave us begin our walk, conversing lightly as we meander around the island.
So, Lou, what do you plan on doing tomorrow morning when this journey has come to a close?
Lou peers off into the horizon.
I'm going home.
His tone is startlingly dark. I'm perplexed. I've never heard him speak in such a way before. I'm not sure whether he's worried about not making it back home, or worried about what will happen once he does. I can only hope that he will be alright in any case.
I'd like to see where you are from one day. Perhaps Abimelech and I could visit sometime.
Lou gazes directly at me. Hidden beneath his flat stare is the impression of vulnerability. Abimelech chimes in.
And you're always welcome to visit us at our village as well.
Thinking about it, everyone would be lost for something to say, but Melee moves right back alongside Lou's lack of despite Lou's lack of engagement.
Say, do you like animals? You look the type.
Lou seems caught off guard from this suggestion, and it's enough to get him speaking again.
I'm not sure. Why are you asking?
Just curious.
Kika owns a lovely pair of wolf dogs.
A dolly and Adelina.
Oh, that smile. So proud of her doggos. I speak their names quietly and fondly. I'm comforted that they're safe under the care of the guardsmen, but long dearly to see them again.
They help me hunt and guard my home.
Good doggos. Bemele nods happily.
They're great girls. I'm considering getting myself a wolf dog someday as well. I live alone. However, whenever someone gets kicked out of their place for the night, it's always my door they come to. I've never had the heart to turn them down, but perhaps a threatening dog may discourage them from showing up.
I can't help but chuckle.
Any dog raised by you will not be threatening. Besides, I know you do not truly want to scare anyone away.
Good-hearted Bemele would spoil a good doggo.
You do have a point there. Still, those dogs are something. A person couldn't ask for better partners.
Lou looks genuinely intrigued at the idea of Adali and Adelina. I smile at him.
The two of them would like someone like you, Lou. You're approachable.
Lou shifts uncomfortably. He shrugs, non-committally.
Sure, maybe I could visit sometime.
Well, our doors are always open for you.
Even despite you being, well, you know. I'm not sure if we made Lou feel any better about his situation, but I know the conversation has helped me. Bemele is remarkable in that way. Oh, we could, bondy bond with Bemele? Sure, walk closer to Bemele. I'll allow myself to drift closer to Bemele. There's not too much space between us as we walk side by side. Bemele views me from the corner of his eye and looks more than pleased. For a brief moment, all of the troublesome circumstances seem to float out of way from our minds, and we enjoy each other's company. I wish it could go on for so much longer, but it's only a while later that I have to speak up.
We really should rest before nightfall.
I'm fine with that idea.
Okay.
Bemele leads us over to the area where the guide mentioned that we were going to meet. He lowers himself down onto the ground and stretches out right there, presumably intending to wait until the guide arrives. That's a little more dramatic of resting than I planned. T-posing on the ground, waiting for the guide to arrive. I walk over and make myself comfortable next to him, but not as comfortable as he has made himself. Lou scrunches his face and takes a seat some distance away from us. The three of us quietly wait for the guide's arrival, occasionally chatting with one another as we rest. I bet he's back. Interestingly, Lou stays with us, it seems. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. This is interesting, because it seems to be playing out like just Bemele and Margaret. So, how's that going to play out? You know, where we're waiting for the bridges to pile up, the guide gets surrounded. Is Lou gonna, like, do his tree dive to save the guide? How's that gonna change? Oh, okay, yeah, Lou is
I
Spider-Man
figured
again.
there's not much of a chance any Nixie will get a hold of me here. They won't climb.
Okay, let's skip ahead. Oh, Nix begin to crowd the opening. It appears they want to get on themselves. Desperately little time before we'll be cut off from the guide. Look to my lantern. Will this light alone be enough to cause them to disperse? Bemele appears at my side, dragging Lou's arm in one hand and his sword in the other. Lou yanks himself free of Bemele's grasp and doesn't seem very happy at the treatment.
Being taken into the water is the biggest threat with these creatures. While we're on the shore, we can keep enough distance to avoid it. I can help push them back.
I appreciate his confidence, but I'm not certain whose help will be worth the risk. Two is more intimidating than just one, and there are many prowlers lurking. Our physical wounds don't hurt them the same way they do people. I'd still use my lantern alone. That has been the one weapon we've wielded against them so far. Mine goes over every point I can think of on a loop. There isn't that kind of time to spare. I have to give an answer. I have a feeling I should save. Let's fight.
If you're going to fight, then I am as well. I will attach the lantern to my belt for now.
Bemele grins and grips his sword firmly.
I'm ready for it.
Lou, stay behind. This needs to be done by us alone.
doesn't verbally reply. However, the severity of our situation isn't lost on him. He falls back and waits for a signal. I latch the lantern to my leather belt and unsheathe my sword. We approach the battle as the two of us have done in the past. The skin of the monsters folds against their bones as they shrink back from my light. Billy takes a wide swing at one nearby, which forces it back even further. I follow in suit, striking at the beasts near to me. Each arc of our sword opens the way a little more. I listen closely and feel confident that Lou hasn't drifted. I pray my instincts are right. It's far too dangerous to look away even momentarily with the Nixie so close. Our efforts bear fruit as the path to the bridges becomes clear in front of my eyes. Waste not one moment sprinting towards the bridges. Oh? Lou? Lou?
Such recklessness. I can hardly believe it worked.
I am shocked as well. Lou looks as though his legs might fall out from underneath him.
Normally, I wouldn't ever say anyone on these bridges are lucky. But we are.
We treasure the moment of triumph a little before the guide ends his silence.
We need to start walking. We've already lost much time as it is.
And now we're in the guide injury route. There. You know, I said I was going to do the bonuses of this video, but I'm curious. Billy frowns hard at me, looks at me, seeming like he desperately wanted to disagree. Lou appears doubtful. I shake my head at them.
There's too much risk for you to come with me. I'm going now.
Turn my heels toward the Nixie. Uh-oh, there's even more of them now. They drag themselves pitifully along the ground, reaching out their hands in our direction like beggars. Fortunately, nothing can be done to help these creatures. As I approach, they curl their bodies from the light of my lantern. None of them move to retreat, however. Eyeing them warily, I quickly jump forwards in the hope of startling them. A few hiss and flail, pulling themselves into the water. One responds a different way, returns the aggression by lashing out and knocks my light free. The lantern falls to the ground and blinks out. Uh-oh, I gasp. Aye. Before I can turn around, one of them pounces on my back, forcing me to the sand as well. I frantically call out to the others.
Run! Get to the bridges!
Many more pile on. I dig my fingers into the loose granules. Puts up no resistance as they begin to drag me closer to the shore. There is shouting, but I'm not able to make out what the words are. As I feel the thick water begin to lap against my legs, I know in my soul that I will never escape. This is the end. That was simple enough. Still chasing that elusive final Bemele.
We need to start walking. We've already lost much time as it is.
Oop. Lou's enjoying Bemele taunting the guide. Bemele seems rather pleased by the reactions thus far, grinning widely at us.
If anyone is worried about my ability to carry the guide for the rest of the night, you shouldn't be. Rest assured, a willowy man like the guide won't slow me down whatsoever.
Lou places his face into his hands, refusing to look Bemele's way. Through his fingers, a glimpse of a grin still remains. Lou is enjoying this. Bemele faces me expectantly. Oh.
Continue down this bridge. We cannot remain here any longer.
Okay, now we gotta sneak across. Oh, bridge is bending.
We need to focus on keeping ourselves centered. We can't let the bridge tilt.
Can't leave Lou behind. There's nowhere for him to go with no other source of light nearby. Say nothing.
Should we keep going?
Lou darts his eyes around the lake nervously.
Yes, we need to move forward. If someone notices the bridge bending at all, they need to slow and tell the rest of us.
Inch, 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 inch.
Stop! We need to rebalance.
Oh, Lou is slipping! He stumbles clumsily, tripping over his feet and getting dangerously close to the edge. And he's sploosh.
Lou!
And he is gone. Lou was such a brave man. Despite whatever had been plaguing him, he didn't let it stop him in place. He could have done so much more, but all that was lost in a moment. Sorry. So sorry. There's no chance going down this path. God, that was medicine. Ain't nothing. Back to the
Should we
bridge.
keep going?
Oh, we do get. Didn't expect that to work. Okay, I'm gonna... Side note, as we go around the bend, something catches my eye. But Melly also notices the unusual object sitting on the ground. Okay, so we didn't get full Bemele points. When we get full points with our human companion on Lou's path, we have the option to go do their island event and leave Lou on his own. Bemele walked to my side as I stand up. Upon seeing the pouch, he lets out a long, suffering sigh.
He's such a child.
Scan the area around us, looking for any clues to Lou's whereabouts. Bemele continues speaking.
Well, your suspicions were right. Figures. We're going to have to track that one down and make sure he eats this time.
I suddenly grip his front, causing him to cease complaining.
What's wrong?
Yep. Green scarf.
No. How? It can't. It's not.
Yep.
No! Don't go there! Don't go anywhere near there!
He flinches but stays put. My eyes search around frantically.
Lou? Where are you?
Look to the forest and tug Bemele to lead him. We make our way to the tree line. There's rustling. The leaves part and all hope within me dies. It's the guide. My hands go numb, a ringing throughout my body, channeling
Have
into
you
them.
seen Lou?
So, you noticed
Noticed what?
that Lou is gone.
Bemele barks angrily at the guide.
How? How could he have? This place was supposed to be safe.
In some areas, there aren't sandy shores. Instead, the thick forested areas lead right into the waterline. Also, since the water is so dense, oftentimes debris settles on top. It can cover what's beneath completely, making it look as though it's still part of the shore when it actually isn't. Those are only a few ways someone could get too close for safety.
Bemele is beyond stunned, unable to process what is happening. I'm no better myself. Frozen and unable to speak a word, instead of burning with anger. Something seems to strike Bemele as he turns his attention to the guide.
Did you do this?
Anger immediately flares again across the guide's features.
Are you trying to imply that I killed Lou?
You've been nothing but displeased ever since we brought him with us against your wishes. You could have downplayed the safety of this miserable place to vindicate your beliefs about Lou.
The guide looks absolutely furious from Bemele's accusation.
And just how do you know it was an accident? No one heard any signs of struggle.
You think he killed himself? That's the answer you want us to come to?
The guide glares at the both of us and mutely snarls.
You didn't know that man. You should have never gotten involved with him. He wasn't your responsibility.
Finishes his sentence full of malice. Bemele's suspicion clearly reaches a tumult as he opens his mouth to continue his tirade. I snap out of my stupor, feeling the tension growing between the two.
This isn't helping anything!
The guide closes his eyes for a few seconds in sighs and frustration.
We'll never know for sure what the truth is. It isn't something we should allow to distract us until we have made it to the other side.
Relay glowers at the guide intensely before stalking off, rage still smoldering. Able to entirely process what just unfolded in front of me, but in the midst of my racing thoughts, I know that I shouldn't allow Bameli to be on his own, not after what happened to Lou. I chase after him when we end up back on the shore. The sun is beginning to set over the horizon. Bameli is solemnly staring at Lou's scarf in the lake. Almost as if trying to goad us, something pulls the scarf underneath the water as we watch. Both of us widen our eyes at the event. He takes one instinctive step forward before moving back. He squeezes his eyes shut and balls his hands into fists. Ah, there it is. Then he sorrowfully releases his fists and covers his face with one hand. He utters something in a distressed whisper.
I should never have let Lou be alone. Why did I do that?
I wanted to comfort Bameli, but I cannot say anything. This was a terrible, terrible mistake. I feel exactly the same. You shouldn't have left Lou by himself, not for a second.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault, man. You did your best. Peered his face and barely managed to reply.
There's nothing for you to apologize to me for. It was all my decision.
No. This can't keep happening. I can't keep letting things like this happen. I need to change. I need to be better than this. I can't do that while leaning on you any longer. I need some time apart, Kika.
Is this what leads him? Is this the rationale that leads to him in some of the endings, like growing distant from Kika, but still being friends, but growing distant from her? This mindset that he wants to grow stronger on his own and not over rely on Kika. Sting burrows into me from skin to through to the organs. It hurts so much to hear that, but I know that this isn't about me. Melly believes this will help him save more people. That is more important than our little feelings.
I understand. It's for the best. For both of us.
He apologizes again, much more softly this time.
I'm sorry.
Oh?
Be strong, Bemele. I know you can.
Doesn't say anything in reply. I'm not sure if he can. Stay together in silence, listening to the waters lap at the base of the shore. As the sun disappears, we are left with no choice but to go to the meeting spot, our bodies heavy and almost mechanical. Our thoughts not any more at ease, we arrive where we are meant to meet the guide. The guide is there, waiting as still and as dark as the trees he's surrounded by. Just the mere sight of him is enough to rile up Bamele further. He turns away and sighs heavily. I place my hand on his arm. As we approach, he finally speaks.
It's almost time.
Nothing else is said. All three of us wait in a deep, miserable silence until night falls. Interesting when, let me show you. Here, we get a similar choice to Bamele. We can sort of validate his concerns about the guide. Or we can shut him down. If we acknowledge his concerns, we get this choice. Which is we can follow the guide's path or go another way. Let's see, if we go another way, go past, light the lantern, stare it down, we die. There's one of these paths. I think it was this. Follow the guide's path. Past, light the lantern, stare it down. Can we run? There's a voice in the distance. It isn't the horrifying sounds of monsters looming. It's Bamele. He's calling out for me.
Bemele!
I shout back to him through the dark, foggy void. My voice comes out as a horribly weak wheeze between deep, shaky breaths. Almost certain that he couldn't hear me. Not bothered by that, however. I will find him. I'm coming, Bemele. Please, just wait for me. Keep running against the increasing light, and his figure comes into view, here on the bridges. Bemele races toward me at high speed and doesn't slow down when he gets near. Grabs hold of my side and supports my dropping frame as I slow to a stop. Barely choke out a sentence as I strain to catch my breath.
Why are you here?
I was looking for you, of course. I knew you had to be nearby. You had to be. Don't worry over it. I wasn't reckless enough to go in the dark. I waited until there was some sun and stayed on one path.
Grins at his own planning skills. I grow cross at his risky behavior.
The bridges could have sunk.
Despite the admonishment, I'm terribly relieved to see him again.
You are free to give me a proper lecture some other time. Right now, I'd say it's time for us to get out of this damned place. Are you still able to run?
Put all my weight back onto my feet and nod at him confidently, though my legs still lightly quake beneath me. Billy gives me a reassuring smile, something I had come to believe I would never get to see again.
Don't worry, we're nearly there.
Provide a battered smile in return. The two of us tear across the bridges in the direction Bemele points out. Just as he promised, the end comes into view. Against all the odds, we both made it. Nearly tumble off the bridges onto solid ground. I crouch on the ground and lay my head between my legs, unable to stand. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotions to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap and see Bemele standing ahead of me. Both of our eyes are flowing with tears. Bemele walks over and sits down in the dirt nearby, gazes deeply into my eyes with a gentle smile gracing his lips. No words need to be exchanged between us to know what the other is thinking. I'm glad for it, because I'm not sure I would be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In a few minutes, only the lonely dock is left. With that, the guide walks toward me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. There's a calm look on his face, though there is force behind his serenity. I open my mouth in an attempt to speak, however I quickly realize that I have little idea of what to say. Do I thank him for this? Should I give him my trust? Is our survival because of him or despite him? Even now, I cannot know for certain. Then the fog is removed from my thoughts. To everything that has happened, it becomes clear. I harden my face to match his serious disposition. There is something he is certainly right of. This lake isn't a place to linger. Going round and round in circles will never help. Not submit our lives or minds to Sinnlos. For better or for ill, there's only one person who can help those once they are within its grasp, the guide. If he were removed, the place would be no safer. What I must do if I truly want to defend others is keep them from coming here at all. When I return to my village, I intend to make that information acutely known to our elder. That to happen, we must leave.
Goodbye.
His eyes narrow as he looks over me. I begin to feel uncomfortable under his scrutiny, but for a moment I could swear I noticed him smiling slightly. However, it could easily be a trick of the morning sun. Look way to face Bemele, not wanting to get caught up in this any longer.
Bemele, we're leaving.
Lifts his head at my voice and grins, though his expression quickly sours into a frown. He shows no eagerness to move forward and keeps his distance. He still feels regret that it is only us who are leaving. I empathize greatly with him, knowing that feeling is one we will never escape from, even after this lake is far behind us. However, he manages to weakly smile again.
Those words are music to my ears. Let's head out.
Bemele walks toward the forest without even acknowledging the guide. That is for the best on the whole. We must get away from here. It saddens me to think Bemele doesn't even have the strength to become angry. Perhaps he had an epiphany about this lake in the same way that I did. We will be able to discuss it on another occasion. Despite the firmness I so intently tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Margaret, Lou, they're both still here. One perhaps more alive than the other. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. Eyes begin to water, and I almost turn back around. No, it is done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to Sinnlos. Nothing would disgrace their memory more. Keep them in my thoughts without allowing that lake to poison me. My steadfastness truly regained, and march into the light with no hesitation. Okay. Remember the lake. Outwardly positive demeanor lifted the spirits of many around him. He hadn't forgotten what we went through. Yep, the distance that had grown between us. We spoke fewer words to each other, but he seemed stronger. He's trying to grow stronger on his own without relying on Kika. He means well. It hurts that we don't have that same closeness anymore, but he does mean well. The name and fate of Margaret soon became known in Hamer. Show respect for her passing. Press F to pay respects. His retelling of events had little to say of Lou. I know that is because he was not meant to be there and he was never one to open up. But it still saddens me to face how I never got to truly got to know who he was. We only truly got to know him once, when we discovered that he was a Nixie. I can only pray that those who cared for him will learn the truth of what happened. I have not heard or seen the guide since then, or made him scared in that realm of fog and fear, mysterious light off in the distance that is ever out of reach of the real world. Notice to cross Sinnlos again. In the end, something will be gained. That is it. God, even though we got the Melee's best events, losing Lou on the island is enough to get in the way and hold us back. If that makes sense. Oh. God, even after seeing what was essentially the true ending of the game, there's still so much that we hadn't seen. Like, for an example, I didn't know that there was a survival ending. On the route where Lou dies on the island. Which means there's probably a similar outcome in the case of Margaret, too. Such little details, like if we affirm some doubts with the guide, we get the option to not listen to the guide's advice. Which ironically seems to not really affect things. Because it still takes us the same direction. Same encounter with the Prowler. That's it, we've done it. 100% CGs. Now I can go back. Now we can go back and do the bonus section. I only meant to show a little bit of just finding them, but there was so much other interesting content here that I couldn't help but explore the rest of it, you know? I feel like there's even still more that we could find. But I'm gonna leave it here. As we continue, we will finally do the bonus scenes. All 3 of them. Then we'll call it a playthrough. And we'll leave Sinnlos behind once and for all.